You are listening to Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness with your hosts, Angie Roberts and Kimberly Murphy. Please be advised that some of the topics of this podcast can be triggering and sensitive in nature.
Welcome to this week's episode of Unified, where we're going to be talking about toxic relationships. Kimberly, I know you just went through something like this.
Yeah, I did. And what's really interesting about it is, like, when you think of toxic relationships, most people think about romantic relationships, relationships with family members. They don't necessarily think about friends. And in this particular circumstance, I had met somebody who seemed so incredibly sweet in the beginning, so supportive, wanted to talk all the time. And for me, like, at that time, I had a lot of like friends, but we didn't talk a lot. So it was really nice to have a friend to talk to. Because, you know, with chronic illness, you're kind of isolated. And my family was like working and going to school and all that stuff. So it was nice to have someone to talk to. In the beginning, it was like she mirrored my values and mirrored my attitude and mirrored, I want to say, like, she thought I was sweet, so she was sweet. If I liked something, she liked the same thing. If I wanted to do something, she wanted to learn about it. It was really kind of strange because I'd never really met anybody who was like that. And I took it as a compliment. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, this person wants to know me that much. This is kind of cool. Like, we're going to be besties or something, you know? But it was really kind of strong, and it kind of came off really fast once it started. But I felt like I made a really like true connection with this person, and I felt like we had so much in common. And like, she genuinely seemed sweet, and you know who I'm talking about, so you know that she did genuinely seem sweet.
Very much so.
Yeah, and most people think that she is very empathetic and pretty cool, you know.
Right.
But then, like, after a while, I started to notice things. Like, little red flags were popping up, and I kind of felt bad because of all the good stuff. I was kind of overlooking these little red flags that would pop up. But I noticed that, like, she was a very judgmental person. That was the first thing to come out, where she always had something negative to say about other people in general. So it didn't matter who we were talking about. It could be her own family, it could be my friends. When I talked about my friends, it was for sure there was always a judgment. Always had something negative to say. It almost came off as jealousy also, because there was a point where her and I were talking a lot, and she would get jealous if I wanted to go spend time with my husband. This is the thing where I finally, and it comes on gradually. It's pretty slow, but all of a sudden you find yourself in this situation where this person is needy. They're completely needy. And me being an empath, like, what do we do when somebody's needy?
Exactly. We try to help them.
And so,
yes,
you want to be there for them. So, and this person always had a tragic drama. This person always had, like, I don't think I remember a day when there wasn't something going on. Like, there was always this huge crisis. We got to a point where I need you, I need to talk to you, I need you now, blah, 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 you know, and you never talk to me, and we don't have enough time, and you're always busy. And, you know, which is funny because I would be talking to this person all night long. I'm a married woman, and I would stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning talking to her about her crisis of the day. Then she would just be like upset with me, like legitimately upset with me if I were to go spend time with my husband.
Right. She was trying to pull you away from other people.
My friends, my husband, everybody. And she would say some pretty nasty things about people. So I was starting to get a little, you know, I was getting pretty upset about that. And she was trying to control me. She was trying to isolate me and control me. The worst mistake I ever made was she wanted to be involved in everything in my life, everything. So that meant including her with all of my friends that I already had. And she started to kind of infiltrate with them, you know. Then she started treating me horribly. Like, that's when the manipulation would start. she started deciding to tell me that I was constantly disappointing her in some sort of way. This person's so fabulous now, and you're not anymore. You should have done this for me, but you didn't. But this other person did. If you can't be there for me, then I'm going to talk to this person instead. And she had a way of manipulating a situation where it would make you feel guilty that you weren't there with, to help her. And then she would talk about this other person like they were fabulous, like she used to say about you. But then she'd turn around and talk about that person with serious judgment and manipulation and control as well.
Oh, yes, I am now the devil.
Because the thing is too is if she found out other people were talking to her person of the day, she would get upset because they weren't allowed to talk to anybody else either. So it became this really messed up cycle within the group of friends that I have. And it was pretty obvious to me right off the bat what was happening. She started sending me love songs. She started sending me paragraphs and paragraphs of really toxic dialogue where she would tell me just basically how terrible I was and I was letting her down. And she's a victim in everything that she was causing. Like, she was always a victim. She never apologized for any of her bad behavior. She always wanted everybody else to basically feel like they were the ones who caused it. And there were times that I would sit there and say, did I do something wrong here? Like, should I feel bad? Like, should I be apologizing? And then I would look back on some of the conversations we had and I would just be like, why am I worried about this? It's right there. She said it right there. And like a lot of times it's like if this kind of toxic person doesn't hear what they want to hear, they didn't hear anything. They didn't hear anything you said. So you could say, I'm so sorry that I caused this part. I'm taking responsibility for this part of that conversation. I didn't conduct myself in a way that I feel that I'm happy with, and I'm sorry for that. And, this person would act like that was never said because you're not giving them exactly what they want. You're not doing exactly what they want. So it's like, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Yeah, because you want to manipulate me. Then I get on the phone and it's, I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see you. So it's never enough. She needed constant attention. She needed constant fulfillment. She obsessed about it so much and did this push and pull, push and pull, push and pull, this whole thing. Right. Really ridiculous. The only way that I could get any sort of like myself back was to just shut it down. Mm-hmm. I had to just shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. And that was hard for me. She had told all her friends a bunch of stuff that wasn't even true. And we would fight about that. And fighting with somebody who is that delusional to make up a lie that strong and that so off base from the truth. Like, for example, if you're holding an apple and they say this is an orange, it's so wrong, right? But that's right. So like that's how separated from the truth she was in this whole thing. And I was expected to say, I'm sorry that I didn't say that was an orange.
Right.
I'm sorry I hurt you when I tried to tell you about apples.
Yes, I totally understand. I was in a relationship like this. I really feel what you're talking about because it was all just manipulation, gaslighting, manipulation, more gaslighting, trying to make you feel horrible about yourself, trying to, it was if whatever would get your attention at the time is what this girl would do to me. And that was, because she wanted my attention. I mean, she would go crazy lengths, as we know that has happened with you.
Yeah, I mean, if I stopped talking to her for a couple days, she would find a way to get my attention by like maybe going on social media and declaring a bunch of things in a video. She actually went as far as to threaten my children. She went as far as to text my husband.
Right, that's crazy.
Yeah, she sent me these like really threatening letters. She would drunk text my phone at 4 a.m. I'd get 12 voice messages in a row that I could barely even understand what she was saying. The next day, I would get a love song. I mean, it was just incredibly toxic. And I don't feel that it's completely over. I mean, I'm still I hope I'm the tail end of it. But I mean, the only way to really stop it is you have to just shut it down. You have to. And it's so hard to do because when I did shut it down the first time, I was like, I felt good about it. But then I started to feel guilty because I didn't like the way I conducted myself and how I ended it. And I think as empaths, we have this like expectation of ourselves.
Definitely an expectation of ourselves. You're right. We live up to a standard of not hurting people's feelings and not leaving things like if I think that somebody thinks that I hurt them and that's not how I meant it drives me crazy. So I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and it did, and it like grated on me more and more and more. And so finally I said, okay, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to talk to this person on the phone, because I thought, if we're on the phone, you can't yell at me and accuse me of these same things. How could you? Like, when they're so untrue. And so we did have a conversation and we did go through the whole scenario. I basically went through every single thing and said, I don't understand why you think that's the reality of what happened when this is what happened, you know? And I tried to really keep it together, because when you're being accused of such horrible things that I was accused of, and this person's crying, crocodile tears and saying, you need to cater to me now because you did this to me. Which again was another manipulation because I hadn't done what was being said.
Right.
Oh, and the other thing, these people are master manipulators in a sense, because they find therapists that will agree with them. And
right.
There are people out there I know who are like, yep. So she has a therapist and she's always saying to me, well, I'll just have to run this by my therapist and see what she thinks, because she thinks you're wrong about that. Meanwhile, the rest of us are like, what kind of therapist do you really have? Because
right.
yeah, and I know I'm probably sounding a little vague out, people are listening and going, what is she talking about? I wish I could go into deeper details. I also know that people who have been in toxic relationships, they can kind of relate to the blame game and the isolation, where the person who's the aggressor actually starts to say they're the victim, I'm the victim, I'm the one who got hurt, I'm the one who did this, she did this to me. They're never, ever, ever at fault for anything. They don't apologize for anything. If they do apologize, it's usually like, I'm sorry you feel that way.
I wish you could see me over here. I'm like, yes, 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 yes.
I'm sorry that when I said this, you did this, or I'm sorry you made me do this. It's never taking responsibility for your own behavior. And then when they're not getting that from you anymore, they will move on and find somebody else immediately, and they will start love bombing that person, which is basically what it is. It's love bombing. Like, you're the best person in the whole world. Oh my God, we're going to be such great friends, and they move on to the next person. They're like energy vampires. They need to feed off of that energy. And I'm not sure why that happens.
And just so everybody knows, that is not an empath. That is the opposite of an empath.
And they seek us out.
They do, because our energy is easy to get.
Exactly. You're right. And, I think a lot of these people have had a lot of trauma, like early in life. Something kind of breaks in them. It's really hard to talk to somebody like that, because they truly believe, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, and it took me a long time to understand, and I'm still learning it. They truly believe what they're saying.
They truly do.
They do.
They do. Mm-hmm.
It's not like you could ever teach them to be different. You can't teach them another way. You can't show them, look, this is what happened, because the very next day, they're right back to their self-dialogue of, you are bad, I am good, I am the victim, you owe me. It never changes.
And it's hardly ever they admit they're wrong at all.
Right. They never admit they're wrong.
Unless you ask like 1,000 times and then you finally get an apology, air quotes.
Yeah. And I think one of the things looking back that I should have really paid attention to is when this person talked about her history with other people. One of the things she said is, everybody's always left me. They ghost me. They just disappear. When they start using terms like everybody and nobody, first of all, that's a big problem, right? My mother has a tendency to do that, so that's a whole nother podcast. But so I've learned about that. It's like tunnel vision. There's only one way of thinking, so that's not good. But she was like saying that everybody left. Well, why did everybody leave? Like, I should have been like, and I felt sorry for her rather than thinking, wait a minute. I was sitting there hearing this thinking, oh, you poor thing. You must have just been hanging out with really horrible people, feeding what she wants to hear, feeding that need in her.
Right.
And when I turned around and finally said, there might be a reason these people all left, I saw a completely different person.
I'm sure you did.
It was not good. Because when you confront these people, and I was afraid to kind of confront her, but when you confront these people, they are vicious, and you need to be careful because they will go to every length.
Every length.
They will pull out their friends against you. They will do everything they can to make you look bad. They will. And they can't seem to let it go.
And you have to let them go. You have to, even though they're going to try their hardest to get you back, you just have to keep letting them go.
Because they will find a way to get a hold of you. They'll always find a reason. And it's funny because it's while they're trying to also tear you down so low. And I think a part of them feels like if they tear you down so low and make you lonely and alone, you'll be desperate enough to go back to them. How messed up is that? Like, for real. But it happens and it works sometimes. And that's what's sad. The empath just so badly wants the conflict to end because we're peacemakers.
Yeah, my experience was kind of the same, but a little bit different because I was talking to this woman on the internet, and great person. Thought she was a great person. She was very sweet. She had a charitable organization, and I thought she was, she's really trying to help people. So I was talking to her for quite a long time, and she was telling me that she was bisexual, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. And she's like, okay. And she's like, but flirting never hurts. And I was like, I kind of got caught off guard. So I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, right, or something like that. I kind of just brushed it off, I guess. But then she started flirting with me, and flirting ended up into a relationship. This woman is in a whole nother state. So
it's funny that you just talked about you found yourself in a relationship. During this whole thing with the girl that I was just talking about,
right.
I looked at my husband one day and I said, I think I have a girlfriend, but I'm not sure. Because
she was trying to be your girlfriend, though.
Right. And one of the things that I didn't mention before was that she was telling people this.
Right.
She was telling people how she was going to make out with me in public. She was telling people that she was going to, announce that I was her girlfriend. I mean, so isn't it interesting how they do that?
It's weird. And I know people are like, first of all, that know me are like, Angie, what? And second of all, they're like, some people are like, you just don't end up in a relationship. Okay, this was an internet relationship, and I don't know how it happened, but it just ended up this way. It was like she really didn't want me to talk to my guy friends or anything, but then she made exceptions for that. If any of my guy friends were coming over to my house, I needed to tell her when they came and when they left and what we did and what we talked about and so yada, yada, yada.
Wow.
She always wanted to know where I was, if I didn't answer the phone, what I was doing. Would always have snarky attitudes if I slept in or
oh my God,
whatever.
Yes. Yes.
If I didn't answer my phone.
It's like they use the phone as a leash.
Yeah, they think that it's a leash, and I'm like, this phone isn't a leash. Like, I'm gonna call you back. Just calm down. Like, it was the worst. Like, oh my gosh. I'm so glad. I really hope that all girls don't act like this because I feel sorry for guys. Like, It made me double think my whole thing, but
I didn't like the snarky comments in the morning. Like if I wasn't like right there in the morning, it'd be like, "Oh, so I guess you're too busy for me today." Like it was never like,
exactly.
"Hi, how are you? Are you okay?" or anything like that.
Right, exactly. Then she ended up with the idea that she was going to come up here, and no, being Angie, I'm like, how do I tell her, no, you're my girlfriend, but you can't come up here? So I let her go ahead.
Oh my
I let her, I let her go ahead and come up here, and that was like, oh my goodness. She wanted to meet everybody that I knew. She wanted to go everywhere that I went. Everywhere that I go on a normal basis or whatever. It was crazy, and she was very judgmental of my friends or whatever. It was just odd. It would be an odd feeling when they were in the room together. I was like ready to get this over with. It's like really weird. So she did leave. When she left and went back home, it wasn't very long after that I was like, oh no, I
can't talk to you anymore. Yeah.
this isn't my thing, first of all.
But see, this is how manipulative they can be. They can suck you into something you wouldn't normally do.
Right, definitely. And so after we broke up, oh my gosh, the love poems come out online, and the songs, and oh my gosh, it was horrible. Because just the way like some of the poems, by the way she would talk about me breaking her heart, and the way she talked about like I did things, made me sound like such a horrible person. And I'm like, what did I do? What have I done? You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how did I get myself into this situation?
Mm-hmm.
To get myself out, pretty much just had to cut communication again, you know. She ended up getting another girlfriend, and she actually ended up blocking me. So I guess that was good. She got a girlfriend one day, and she was talking to me one day, and the next day she ended up like blocking me, but then she would still try to talk to me on like other ways. It was an interesting time in my life.
We just told pretty much the same story.
I know, it's not the same girl, y'all.
It's funny because I know who she's talking about too. So,
Right.
but no, we pretty much did say the same story because she wanted to be everywhere you had been. She wanted to know everybody you knew. Same thing with the person that I knew. She came to my house. I had her at my house for Thanksgiving. She had stayed at my house for the weekend. She was like trying too hard to really get to know my kids. She was trying too hard to like get to know all of my friends. And if she found a situation where like she knew she wasn't going to get in good with a friend, she would start bad talking the friend. Like if that person was really a friend, they would do this or that, but they're not. She'd like plant little seeds, which never worked.
Oh, we used to get in arguments over my friends all the time because she would try to do stuff like that. And I'm like, no, no.
Right. I don't know why they think they'll be successful in doing that, but I guess if it does work on some people, and that's what's really sad when women are pulled away from their families, especially. This girl got a hold of my husband because I was helping my mother move, and because I have lupus, she was upset about it. She got a hold of my husband, basically telling him, "How could you let her do this?" and called my mother the C word and said she would have killed her by now.
Oh, wow. That's just crazy.
And she would say things like, if I was there, I wouldn't allow this or this to happen at all. You wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem, but I'm sure if I was married, I would have.
Yeah, I don't know why they think they can break up marriages, but I know in her case she did. She actually did break up one marriage, and the woman moved in with her, and they were together for like, I don't know, it wasn't even a year before the girl left and ghosted her. Didn't even tell her why.
Oh, she told her. She's just saying that. I am the youngest of 10 children, and my parents were 25 years apart, so I am the only child of my mom and my dad. So right there, you already has some tension between children. You know what I mean? That already starts something. And I'm the youngest, so baby of the family. My brothers and sisters, like, I had a lot of issues growing up. And as I was growing up, they weren't there for me, even though they saw that I was having issues. It ended up where really my brother, I kind of didn't, he does his own thing and he's not around much. But my two sisters, they knew what was going on with me, and they know that I have mental issues, and they've known, that all this stuff. My mom told them everything that I did in high school and all this stuff. So they knew, but they never stepped out to help me. They always just started treating me worse. You know what I mean? They always started distancing themselves even more than they already were.
Which is sad.
Right. So when I got on my own, I started sending them Christmas cards and Easter cards, birthday cards, and St. Patrick's Day cards, and every card you can think of in the book, Halloween cards. I never got a thank you. I never got anything. Never. So after years of doing that, I stopped doing that. And then my mom kept telling me, like, pretty much just stop talking to them, because if they're going to treat you that way, then that's just how they're going to treat you. So I got tired of just being, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there was never any reaching out to see how anybody was or anything. They would go on their little vacations and have fun without, I wouldn't even get an invite. Even though I probably couldn't make it, I would still not get an invite. So I wasn't wanted in that family anyway. That's how I felt. That's how I still feel. So, it was very toxic. So one New Year's Eve, just took them off my friends list on Facebook, took them off my Instagrams, and took them off all my stuff. And I haven't talked to them since then. And I don't really miss it, because I don't feel like I have to try. And people are going to say out there that, well, if they die, you're going to be feeling a different way. I am, and I will. But then I'm going to remember how much I tried to be there, and they didn't want to be there. I can't make them be there. I can't do it for the rest of my life either.
Right.
And just be disappointed and sit and cry because my brothers and sisters don't want to have anything to do with me. Now, I'm really not talking about all my brothers and sisters. It's more on my mom's side, because my dad, they are much older, so I didn't get to talk to them that much. So
People say that, like they do say that. You're not obligated to stay in a toxic relationship just because somebody is blood.
no, you're not. And that's why I wanted to say something.
Yeah, you could do this your whole life with them and they could die and you could still be you're still going to be really hurting because you never got the relationship that you were supposed to have.
Right, and it's very toxic. People that halfway want to be there sometimes when it looks good for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. You reminded me of a situation where I was getting married and my maid of honor had sent invites out to my family for my bridal shower. And the only person that showed up was my aunt. My mother didn't even come. It was really hurtful. And so I can relate to what you're saying. I mean, you can reach out and you can try to form relationships, but they have to want to as well. And to be left out of things and to be disregarded is, even if you're family, that's not okay.
I live in Michigan, so my brothers and sisters, they live in, well, the ones that I'm talking about, they live in Arkansas. I had to go down to Arkansas for my best friend's funeral. The only one, now I understood one of my sisters, her grandbaby was being born around that time, so they were on call to go somewhere or something. But anyway, my sister that lives right there, I called her and told her where I was, and I don't have a car, so I couldn't go see her. I told her where I was and gave her my address and told her how long I'd be in town, and she never came and saw me. But my sister-in-law did with my niece, and they brought Jacob some toys and stuff, and they ask about him every now and then. So they do, at least my sister-in-law. She tries to keep the peace. She tries to be a good person, and she's a sweetheart.
Family dynamics are just so bizarre,
They really are.
And I mean, I could have talked about my dad too. He's total narcissist, but I'll save that for another episode. But yeah, my family's really toxic.
Yeah, my family was really toxic too. Yeah, we had some interesting situations.
I'm really glad that our next guest is kind of like a guru when it comes to this kind of stuff. And what's amazing about her? She is so young, first of all, and she's so wise and definitely one of these old souls. very passionate about what she's talking about. Cannot wait to have her on the podcast. She'll be here next week, so please stay tuned for that. Her name is Karleigh Saunders. What is the mantra for this week, Angie?
A healthy relationship will never require you to sacrifice your friends, your dream, or your dignity. Period.
Yes. So we really hope that you enjoyed this episode and are looking forward to next week when Karleigh comes and gives us her insight. Remember that you're not alone and we are stronger together. Take care and we'll see you next time.
Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness can be found at anchor.fm/unified. There you can find all social media links as well as other ways to listen.